LAPD. Well, we have a new accusation. They have been accused of killing a teenager while driving intoxicated. The other way. Put it up for a mass. The story is going to make your blood boil. LAPD cop has been accused of drinking and driving, killing a teenager, and then leaving the teenager to die. Prosecutors say he fled to his girlfriend's house to hide instead of calling for help. Los Angeles cop faces charges after allegedly hitting a man while he was driving drunk, then fleeing the scene to his girlfriend's home and leaving the victim to die in the street. Carlos Gonzalo Coronel, 40, charged with multiple felonies, including DUI, causing great bodily injury, and hit and run with permanent injury or death. According to the Orange County District Attorney's Office, the deadly collision happened at about 3:41 a.m. This took place February 1st in Tustin, California. Prosecutors say that the officer got behind the wheel of his pickup truck early that morning to head to his girlfriend's house after a night of drinking with his brother-in-law. While he was driving, the officer allegedly struck 19-year-old Imanol Salvador Gonzalez, who was walking in the street near an intersection. According to prosecutors, the officer did not stop to see what he hit. The officer did not stop to call 911 to report the crash, even though his truck sustained significant front-end damage. He only continued driving to his girlfriend's home. That's it. Just minutes after the crash, two people were on their way home from work. They found the teenager's body lying in the middle of the road and called the police. Let me bring your attention to some cultural dynamics. Why would an officer of the law decide to drive intoxicated knowing the law? Well, typically it is because the culture of policing 9 times out of 10 would protect him if he was pulled over. He's not thinking about innocent life. He's thinking about penalty and punishment. But because he's a cop, there's a culture that would likely commit to protecting him than holding him accountable. Once he hits this young man, he decides to go to his girlfriend's house. Well, that's a hit and run. Why did he do that? Well, that's evidence of a guilty conscience. He knows what has happened is likely completely illegal, and he would now be held accountable for something this extreme. So when the officer got to his girlfriend's home, she ended up driving him to his home. The prosecutors say he instructed her to avoid the road where the fatal collision took place. The DA's office added that he later drove past the crime scene where police were investigating without stopping to inform them that he had been involved in the crash at that same location. The officer's internet search history also revealed that he tried to look up articles online to check if news outlets reported a fatal hit and run on the road where he's accused of hitting the young teenager, Mr. Gonzalez. The officer was arrested a day after the crash. After investigators found debris from his truck at the scene, police determined the suspect vehicle was a black 2021 Chevrolet Silverado and discovered the officer was the registered owner of said Silverado. Gonzalez's family called for justice after the cop was booked into jail. Quote, "He's supposed to be protecting us, protecting the people, not killing us," end quote. Gonzalez's father, Mr. Kalaba, told KABC News. Let's put up the GoFundMe. So friends of the family set up a GoFundMe to raise money for the funeral expenses. Obviously, this is something that was completely unplanned. quote, his life was tragically cut short at the tender age of 19 years old by a hit and run vehicle, end quote. Page reads, his family is devastated and is going through a lot of financial and emotional hardship. We have the link in the description of this video. Do the absolute best you can. LAPD told McClatchy News, quote, we do not tolerate misconduct of any kind, and any violations of department policies or the public trust are taken seriously. If the officer is convicted on all counts, he could face up to nearly 7 years in prison. In my opinion, that is far too light. In 2011, the officer was charged with a misdemeanor DUI after he was involved in another hit and run. He pleaded no contest. He was called back. To come earlier this year to answer for a probation violation in that case after failing to pay fees and complete his community service. In other words, Mr. Gonzalez would be alive today. Mr. Gonzalez would not have to have dealt with such an extreme violation from an officer of the law if the law decided to enforce their protocol and policy until the cop he needed to go. All right. Tehran, thoughts here?
Well, my thoughts are, first of all, my condolences to the Gonzalez family. No parent should ever live long enough to see their child die, especially in such a way. What happened here is a miscarriage of justice because there was a pattern of behavior. And had we had that in any other situation, the person's license would have been taken away. There would have been consequences for their original action that would have led to this hopefully not happening, second of all. Thankfully, the police were able to apprehend, in this case, one of their own. Hopefully, they're not treating them like one of their own. This person is a criminal. It is a hit and run. It is a DUI, one of the worst kinds of offenses, especially in a world where we have Uber and Waymo. Get a ride home.
Yeah.
Last but not least, remember, this is not where the blue wall extends. This is where the blue wall should collapse. Police officers, much like other trusted members, teachers, pastors, priests, should be held to a higher standard, not a lower one. So let's remember that when he goes to court, this is a pattern of behavior, and this is something that needs to be held extremely accountable for.
Well said. And we will keep everyone updated as this develops. We are looking for more development from the story.